Yes, I've been promising it for a while. We are finally going to run through the LA City Eviction Moratorium. You've asked, and here we are to give you a quick summary. And we're also going to share some of the differences between the LA City Eviction Moratorium and the LA County Eviction Moratorium. Plus, just remember, the LA City Eviction Moratorium is not affected by AB 2179. Everything's still in place. Hey there. Christian Walsh, real estate agent with Wire Associates. We've been helping tenants and landlords make sense of these crazy days in California and beyond. And we're here to tell you about the LA City Eviction Moratorium. It's been in place since March of 2020, and it offers protections to renters in the event of non-payment of rent due to COVID-19, plus some other big eviction protections. And remember, as we always say, we can't give tax or legal advice, but for the most honest and up-to-date real estate advice, subscribe to this channel. So the first important question is, are you actually in LA City or LA County or somewhere else? So there's going to be two easy ways to figure out if you are located in LA City, if the property you live in is. So number one is if the electric and water bills are paid to the Department of Water and Power in Los Angeles, that means you're LA City. And the other way to check is to use ZMUS, which is a GIS-enabled tool for the zoning in Los Angeles. We have a link below, and we've used this for other things, but you can see the areas that are colored in with colors are in LA City. So you can see just how large the city is itself and how far it stretches. And you can zoom in and check an individual address. You can also type up here in the search function an individual address. We've already zoomed in on a few here, and you are able to double check and see that these are indeed in LA City. One other handy feature is if you type in the address or find the property in ZMUS and you go over to the left and you click on housing, it's going to tell you some more information about the property, including whether the property is under the RSO, the Rent Stabilization Ordinance. And why this is important for LA City is that properties in the RSO are not able to have their rent increased during the LA City Eviction Moratorium. That's one way to kill two birds with one stone, figure out whether the property's in LA City and also figure out whether it's under RSO. Let's dive into the LA City Eviction Moratorium, and along the way I'll point out some of the differences between LA County and LA City when it comes to the eviction moratorium. So the best summary, I do have a link to this. I also have a link to the ordinance that lays everything out. We're going to look at this page from the Los Angeles Housing Department. It's an excellent summary and has a lot of frequently asked questions here as well. We're going to run through this quickly. So under update June 1st, it talks about the end date for the LA City Eviction Moratorium, and that is when the local emergency is declared over by the mayor. It does mention a date of August 1st, 2023, whichever comes first, the end of the declaration, etc. But don't take that as an end date for the LA City Eviction Moratorium. And that date specifically says for protections, but it doesn't say all the protections. So long story short, there isn't an end date to the LA City Eviction Moratorium that's been set in stone yet. Now that's a difference from the Los Angeles County Eviction Moratorium, where they talk about phases and different things happening during the phases and an end date potentially for phase 3. LA City does not have an end date as of right now. That's one of the other major differences. If you hear someone talking about phases, that refers to LA County, and that's in my other video. I run through the phases, and they've just been changed by AB 2179. AB 2179 prevents the Los Angeles County Eviction Moratorium from being extended. That's built into AB 2179. But it does not affect the LA City Eviction Moratorium because that's been in place since 2020. There haven't been any extensions for the LA City Eviction Moratorium. It's just been there the whole time. So that's one of the major differences. All the protections we're going to talk about haven't necessarily changed from the beginning and certainly aren't affected by AB 2179. The protections are all still in place. So let's talk about some of these. We do see here where they talk about a COVID-19 renter protections fact sheet, and it's worth looking at that. We're going to circle back on that, and I'll show that to you because that's important for landlords if they're going to move forward with an unlawful detainer. So here is the summary of the City of Los Angeles rental protections. and I will again call out some of the differences. So this is set up just like LA County's eviction moratorium and all other eviction moratoria to protect those who cannot pay rent due to COVID-19. Now the LA City Eviction Moratorium has additional protections related to evictions that doesn't matter if COVID-19 is affecting the tenant. They are in place right now through the end of the emergency order. So under the LA City Eviction Moratorium, a landlord cannot terminate a tenancy, can't evict a tenant for non-payment of rent due to COVID-19. Other forms of non-payment of rent, a landlord is able to move forward with an unlawful detainer. But of course, if the tenant claims it's COVID-19, that will stop that unlawful detainer from moving forward. So another important point is no fault evictions cannot move forward. And what is a no fault eviction? Essentially, the way to look at it is it's not the fault of the tenant. The landlord is going to attempt to move in. The landlord wants to do major repairs to the unit. The landlord's going to take the property off the market because of the Ellis Act. None of those can happen in LA City while this eviction moratorium is in place. That's a major difference from the LA County Eviction Moratorium, where there are provisions for owner move-in. The owner is able to move in and under LA County's eviction moratorium, and I did a video specifically on that. I'll put a link out there so you can see that. But in LA City, this provision doesn't exist. An owner cannot move into their own property while this moratorium is in place. As for the Ellis Act, if an owner wants to take their property off the market and no longer make it a rental, they're going to have to wait 60 days after the emergency order is declared over. As far as at-fault termination of tenancy, an owner is not able to terminate the tenancy if there are additional residents that have moved into the unit, or there are pets in the unit, or there is nuisance being created, as long as those are related to COVID-19. Now, theoretically, an eviction could take place if the tenant has moved people in and it's not related to COVID. But again, the tenant could say that it is related to COVID and they are protected. So those at-fault evictions can't move forward, and those actually are identical to the ones in the LA County Eviction Moratorium. Of course, at-fault evictions, for example, criminal activity in a unit, those can still move forward under the LA City Eviction Moratorium, and same thing under the LA County Eviction Moratorium. Another example would be waste, or where the tenant is destroying the property. A landlord can move forward with an unlawful detainer. Now, one major difference between LA City and LA County when it comes to at-fault termination of tenancy, in LA County, if a tenant does not let a landlord in phase 1 of the LA County Eviction Moratorium, the tenant can't be kicked out for this. They can't have their tenancy terminated because of not cooperating and not letting the landlord in. LA City does not offer those same protections. If a landlord gives proper legal notice to enter the unit and the tenant does not comply, there aren't any special protections in here, and theoretically the tenant could be evicted for this. And one more point is landlords can't charge any late fees on rent that is late due to COVID. As you can see, number 4 makes reference to the protections notice, and this is up to 12 months after the end of the emergency order is declared. The landlord, if they're going to move forward with an unlawful detainer, is required to give the protections notice. And I will run through that very quickly. And here's a copy of the protections notice so you can see it. I have a link below. It's available in several different languages. Make sure you check the links I have so you can get other copies. But it's a quick summary of some of the protections under the LA City Eviction Moratorium, and also talks about repayment options, what a landlord and tenant can work on together to make sure that the landlord gets any back rent that's not covered by the rental assistance program, get that rent paid back to the landlord. And then it also has a tenant notification to landlord of the inability to pay rent due to COVID-19. Now, it isn't required that a tenant give this to a landlord, but it is recommended, and this will provide a paper trail for a tenant if they end up having to go to court because the landlord's attempting to move forward with an unlawful detainer. So this is the notice that the landlord must give the tenant if they're going to give any 3-day notice to pay or quit, or they're going to give a 60-day notice to terminate tenancy, for example. It must include this paperwork, and it must be included the full 12 months after the emergency order is declared over in LA City by the mayor. How is the LA City eviction moratorium enforced? Well, tenants can have an affirmative defense against eviction because of the LA City eviction moratorium. So what it says here is that the tenant should notify their landlord that they're not going to be able to pay rent due to COVID, but it doesn't require that they provide a notice or any sort of documentation. As I just mentioned about the notice that I showed you, it's not required, but it does create a paper trail. Now, here is another thing that's unique. In addition to that notice being unique to the LA City eviction moratorium, also, there is a process for a tenant to file a complaint. If a tenant feels they're being unlawfully evicted or they've received a notice unlawfully, they can call this phone number here, or they can file a complaint electronically. And this is where a tenant would go to file the complaint. It says file a RSO complaint, but it also references the mayor's emergency order. So this is where the tenant would go, and it lists several reasons that a tenant can file a complaint. It also says to reach out to legal counsel, and there's plenty of resources through legal aid that the city of LA and LA County itself have. So tenants, make sure you reach out if you receive any paperwork. And landlords, you are going to need a professional to jump through these hoops. So make sure you turn to a good eviction attorney who understands LA City before you move forward with any sort of 3-day pay or quit or any notice to terminate tenancy. And this is from the ordinance itself. Another good reason to make sure landlords that use a professional. If a tenant wants to go ahead and sue the landlord for an unlawful eviction, there's a certain process they can follow. And if the tenant wins, they can win up to $10,000 per violation. So this is not something you want to do on your own, landlords. You want to make sure you follow the letter of the law with help. And renters, make sure you reach out for legal aid as well so that you can fight back if a landlord is moving forward unlawfully. So a quick summary on some of the differences. LA City, there aren't any phases. There isn't an end date. LA City Eviction Moratorium is not affected by AB 2179. In LA County, if a tenant misses rent for April, May, or June of 2022, there's a chance they can be evicted, and we've done content on that. LA City, it's different. The tenant doesn't necessarily have to pay April, May, and June to keep their eviction protections. And remember, in LA City, there's no owner move-in provision, but if a landlord gives proper legal notice to enter and the tenant doesn't cooperate, there's a chance in LA City that that tenant is opening themselves up for an at-fault termination of tenancy. Don't forget, there's a special notice required if a landlord is going to deliver a 3-day notice or a 60-day notice, for example. Tenants are protected if they have extra occupants who have moved in, pets, or nuisance related to COVID-19. They can't be evicted for these. Don't forget that a renter can file a complaint in LA City if they feel that a landlord is illegally attempting to evict them, and there could be civil penalties for the landlord. Leave your questions below. I know you're going to have them. Everybody does when I do an eviction moratorium video. So please leave those below and we'll do our best to get you an answer. Make sure you subscribe to our free weekly email newsletter. We send it out on Sundays. You don't want to miss updates like these, plus a whole lot more. If you found this video helpful, make sure you tap that like button. Just hit it once. I know you may want to hit it more, but once is enough. And check out this playlist to make sure you're kept up to date on any changes in the eviction moratorium laws. I'll have the latest and greatest news in this playlist. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Christian Walsh, real estate agent with Wire Associates, and we want to hear from you.